Hey everybody, I'm going to try to do this as a live stream, and this is our homework help for tonight on how to find the percent of any number. I'm going to flip the camera down here and we're going to take a look at how we do this. These are some examples from class. Alright. If I want to find the percent of any number, so in this example it's 30% of 80, but it could be anything. It could be 40% of 100, or it could be 110% of 75. It could be anything. What we're looking at is 30% of 80. We already know it equals 24, but let's figure out how we get that. There's a couple ways you can do it. I'm gonna move for some better lighting over here to the table. All right, starting off here, we could do this as a fraction, and you can see right here where I've written 30% of 80, and then right there highlighted, you see where I've written as a fraction. 30% is just 30 over 100, and 80 as a fraction is just 80 over 1. Of is meaning that we're multiplying to find it. So 30 over 100 times 80 over 1, we multiply straight across. 30 times 80 is 2,400, and 100 times 1 is 100. If I need to go over here to the side and actually do that multiplication to figure that out, I can do that and then just come back and write my answer here. But I'm not finished, because this is really 2,400 divided by 100. So I can go all the way and do that in long division, or I can recognize that that's the same thing as 240 over 10, and it's the same thing as 24 over 1. So those zeros can cancel each other out, and 24 over 1 is just 24. So 30% of 80 is 24. When the numbers are real friendly, like 30% and 80, we can solve that as a fraction. But we can also do it as a decimal. You can see here, same exact problem, but I've written, instead of as a percent, I've written it as a decimal. Students know the way we do that is to take a percent, the decimal point, if this were the real number 30 would be here. We move it to the left 2 places, 1, 2, and we get rid of the percent sign. And so the equivalent decimal to 30% is 0.30, or 30 hundredths. And then we multiply that times 80. 80 is already a decimal. It's got an imaginary decimal right there. So we're going to come over here. This looks a lot like this up here, except we've got that decimal point now. We're going to ignore it for a second and multiply like normal. We're going to get 2,400, just like we did a second ago. But if we're treating this like a decimal, we got to remember, we're pretending like this is 30, which means we'd have to move the decimal over twice. So in our answer, we're going to bring it back. We're going to move it back over twice, back in the other direction. So we have 24.0, or just 24. That's how we find 30% of 80. You can do it as a fraction or as a decimal. And we talked in class today, the best method, I believe, is to do it as a decimal, because sometimes, like you see down here below, we have examples that don't have friendly numbers. So you've got 13.5% of 70.8. These are not nice friendly numbers like 30% of 80. So when it's like that, you can do it as a fraction. 13.5% is the same thing as 13.5 over 100. And 70.8 is the same thing as 70.8 over 1. I can do it like that and multiply straight across. But I'm going to have to multiply 13.5 times 70.8 over here. I'm going to have to multiply decimals anyway. So why don't I just go ahead and start out as a decimal instead? So like we did before, to change 13.5% into a decimal, I find the decimal and I move it 2 places to the left. Now it's here. and I get rid of that percent sign, which is what you see right here, and I multiply that by 70.8. I don't need to change that. It's already a decimal. So I come over and I do my multiplication. I ignore those decimal points for just a minute, and I multiply just like I normally would, and then I'm left with my answer right down here, and I've got to put my decimal points back. So I count up the decimal places that I have. I was pretending this was 135, so to do that, the decimal would have to be at the end. So there's 1, 2, 3 decimal places. And I was pretending when I multiplied that that was 708, which means that decimal would be over here. So that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So in my answer, I'm going to move it back 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. So the answer to the question of 13.5% of 70.8, let me rewrite that because it looks a little messy. So 13.5% of 70.8 equals 9.5580, 9.55. I'm going to leave that 0 off because we don't have anything in that place value. So 9 and 558 thousandths. That is 13.5% of 70.8. Hopefully those can help you tonight on your homework. Zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole process that will work with any number. Replay this video as many times as you need to, and hopefully this will help you tonight. Thanks for watching.